Hey guys, this is Daniel Dr. D, and I've been talking about the first watt, and I finally got a chance. I want to tell you guys a little bit more about this amplifier. And I first, my friend had uh, purchased this amplifier on the used market and told me how good it sounded, and I had never heard one, so he invited me over to listen to it. And when I first heard it, I have to admit, I dropped my jaw. I was actually shocked by the sound of it because I normally listen to tubes. So most of my experiences are with tubes, and I've always had a struggle with solid state because of that sound. And I kind of drew up a picture of what solid state is like to my ears. And there's the other people that may express this similar thing. So I did this drawing here just to kind of show you. And I just drew a picture here to represent different instruments, and you see these circles. And the way I describe tubes is that the sound is like you hear all the individual instruments, each one. And on solid state, whenever I've typically played solid state amps in the past, you have all your instruments here, but there's like this veil that covers it, and you just can't get around the space around the individual instruments as illustrated here on my drawing. So sorry for the ugliness of this graph, but it's just to kind of give you a sort of an idea. So I was a little biased, I admit, when I first heard about this thing when my friend was telling me about it. But he listens. He and I are very similar in the way we listen to music, and the accessories that we have been using, we've shared and stuff, and we've kind of grown to appreciate each other's opinions on it, and I certainly appreciated his. So, like I said, when I first heard it, I I kid you not, this does not sound like a solid state, any solid state amplifier I've ever heard in my life at all. And I've really heard a number of different solid state amps that this is just entirely different and just shocking to me. And when my Bob Latino amp, for example, it has a very tubby sound. Now, when I compare, and just to give you kind of an idea, and this isn't on every speaker, but I'm just going to kind of share an experience that I had. And what I did is I drew another photograph here, just a drawing with some Sharpie marker here. And what I get, like sometimes with tubes, is you'll kind of hear this grainy kind of sound. This is not every tube. I mean, so don't take this too literally. I'm just kind of trying to give you an idea what it sounded to my ear, like to my ears. And you kind of have, I kind of heard this graininess with my tube amp that you see, and so I've kind of illustrated that with this rough line. And the first watt is like the same thing, but you see this clean, smooth line? That's how it sounds. It's like it's just ultra clean. But what's weird about it is you hear the individual instruments exactly like a tube. I don't know. Some people have expressed that they sound like tubes. I think it's everything like tubes and then some. It's just incredible how good it is. And my friend also has a SIT 3, and we'll talk about that at some point when we have a chance to bring it over and whatnot. Now, what it did is I did another picture here where we have a listener here, and I have the speakers here. And one of the things that you hear about is the term balance, and balance I think has to do with the evenness or of all the instruments on the sound stage, all sounding like they're there in front of you. And for some reason, and it's only on this, my friend's speaker that I hear this because I think his system is probably the best sound system I've ever heard in my life, even more so than my own system because there's things about it that my friend has done that I just really like, that it's taken me some time to catch up to him. And so what happened is that when I play, sometimes when you hear an amplifier, at least compared to the first watt, I have a saxophone, which I've illustrated here, where on some amplifiers it'll sound like the sax is in behind the speaker, whereas on the first watt it sounded like the sax was right there at the tweeter. So it's kind of weird. It's a very balanced sounding amplifier. Now, this isn't necessarily going to happen to every, speaker. It's just, I think what's happened is my friend's sound system, it's just becomes, it sounds so refined that it just picks up every little thing that you can possibly hear. But that is one of the things about the first watt is that when I heard the saxophone coming out of the right channel on one of the tracks we were playing, I was just shocked at how the presentation was and how good and clear it was to my ears just absolutely blew my mind. And I was just in awe when I heard this amplifier. So, and this things, I think these things you can pick up on the used market if you ever find them. This is the F3, so it's an earlier design. I can't remember what they are. You might be able to pick them up for about $1,800 or $1,900. I don't know, or for maybe $1,500. But they very seldom come up, and I understand that Nelson Passaway makes a limited amount of them. I think one of the little caveats with it, it just does tend to run a little bit hot compared to the SIT 3. And but other than that, I cannot say enough about how amazing these amplifiers are. And if you want to consider a solid state, now I think it's 15 watts into 8 ohms and it's 10 watts into 4 ohms. We play it on the open baffle speaker, which I've talked about. This is the 18s, and it drives the hell out of them. I mean, you can just make it super loud in this place, and it's chest pounding. So it absolutely just drives the heck out of them, like no problem. So you have all the benefits of tubes, all the sound quality with all that tight bass that you get in solid state. I mean, it's like just complete win-win situation. And I'm actually on the hunt to work with another one. I had the F6 for a limited time. We'll talk about that later. And then I'll be back at you guys with some info on the SIT 3 to share about that. But all in all, I cannot say enough how much I absolutely love this amplifier and how amazing it sounded to my ears. All right, so we'll be back at you, kid, and we'll talk soon.